Hello, my lovely students. I'm so elated to welcome you to yet another engaging literary discourse with me. In our class today, we shall be taking a holistic review of Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. In our last lecture, I painstakingly took you through the elements of prose. For today's work by Ralph Ellison, The Invisible Man, it is a literary work that is crafted to actually explain the plight and the aspirations of the blacks in a white dominated American society. I remember telling you that colonialism actually is an unholy union. When we talk about union, it's supposed to be an agreement between two parties that willingly accepts to come together. But in this situation, the white overlords forced their wish on the people. And this is what Ralph Ellison is trying to explain through this literary material. Now, when we look at the historicity of this literary work, talks about the blacks going through all manner of inhuman treatment in the hands of the white overlords. Now, talking about the white overlords, they believe that as a black man, you are merely to be seen and never to be heard. And this is what the blacks are trying to fight against. And that is what Ralph Ellison, the message, is trying to pass across to us. Now, in this literary work of art, is actually a plot that is weaved around the major character whom the author refers to as narrator. Now, the narrator actually is invisible, not physically invisible, but in his head, is invisible. Invisible in the sense that he's trying to carve a niche for himself, trying to create a world that is a different from that which the whites are trying to pass across to him. Now, growing up as a young lad from the South, his grandfather, on his dying bed, admonished him to try as much as possible to be subservient to the plight, whims, and caprices of their white masters. As a little boy, our protagonist is confused. Now we look at our protagonist who is being portrayed as a very intelligent young man. In short, he is a scholar because in his academics, he excelled. He did so well, and he is also a born orator. So well to the extent that the colonial masters, the whites, had no choice but to appreciate him. To him, they see another Booker T. Jr. And as a result of his oratory prowess, he was invited to come give a speech in a select white meeting. He was so elated and full of hopes. He went for that meeting only for his hope to be dashed because he was meant to be engaged with other blacks in a battle known as the Battle Royale. Now, this Battle Royale is quite demeaning because it places the black as below the white man. Our protagonist is angered, hopes dashed, and he is not happy about this situation. Because of that, he tried as much as possible in his mind to fight the battle. And what is the battle? To fight against the whites who are trying to make them as blacks to be mere stooge, crafted for the entertainment of the whites. Now, when we look at the Battle Royale, we find out that our protagonist, the narrator, and other blacks were just placed there in the arena just to entertain the whites who laughed at their stupidity, according to them. After entertainment, at the end of the day, the narrator was given a scholarship to an all-black college. Yes, this young man is quite ecstatic about the scholarship, but the question remains, why an all-black college. And that is because of the segregation. That is because of the dichotomy that exists between the blacks and the whites. As a young black lad, he is not expected to school alongside the whites, who are seen as more superior to the black man. Yes, our protagonist, the narrator, eventually got to the white college and settled down, where his oratory prowess also had sway and his academic input was felt because he also was doing very well in his studies. And because of this, he was given a rare privilege, even as a student, to also become a chauffeur in the school. And as a chauffeur, he's able to earn extra pay for himself. Everything was moving on smoothly, smooth sailing. Not until certain predicaments, just acting as cog in the wheel of progress, played out in the life of our narrator. And now, when we talk about our narrator, there is also a particular character that is being portrayed as a very terrible human being, and that is in the person of James Trueblood. Now, James Trueblood actually committed incest with his biological daughter. Not just committing incest, he impregnated this young lady. And this is technically trying to portray the black man as a very terrible human being before the world. Now, our narrator, who has now settled down in the college, who has done so very well in the college, now is a chauffeur. Mr. Norton, who is one of the trustees of the college, came visiting. And as the chauffeur in the college, our narrator was mandated to carry Mr. Norton around. And one of the places he took Mr. Norton to is to see Mr. Jim Trueblood. Now, outside going to Mr. Jim Trueblood's place after the encounter with him, he felt he needed to relax. Okay, and that means taking him to the all black inn known as the Golden Day Inn. Now, this Golden Day Inn is supposed to be where the blacks gather to unwind after the day's job. But our narrator, having no other place in mind to take Mr. Norton, a white man, to, decided to take him to the Golden Day Inn. And while at the Golden Day Inn, we had lots of veterans who feel that they are in their own right also, that they are strong enough, and they confronted Mr. Norton, and after the confrontation, Mr. Norton felt bad. And when our narrator got back, he was being punished by Mr. Bledsoe. He was so punished because he took Mr. Norton to the Golden Day Inn. Though he tried to vindicate himself, to no avail. So he was expelled from the college. Our narrator left the college with 7 letters given to him by Mr. Bledsoe. Yes, to him, these were letters of recommendation, not knowing that the content of these letters were quite demeaning. As he, as a young lad, as a black boy, will continue to run. As the letter says, keep the nigger boy running. And when our narrator took this letter to the various white trustees, as a black man, he never opened this letter until he got there. They opened it and they saw that it was actually not a letter of recommendation, and that our narrator has been described with all manner of negative adjectives as a very terrible human being. This happened in the first, second, third, fifth, fourth, fifth place until eventually he got to Mr. Emerson's company. Unfortunately for him, when he got there, Mr. Emerson was not there, as he met Mr. Emerson's son, who, after reading the letter, understand the naivety of our narrator. And he hugged him and told him, "Young man, I know you've not, you don't know the content of this letter, but it's quite the meaning. We are not meant to give you a job, but I love you. And for that sake, I'm going to give you an employment in the Liberty Paint." That was how our narrator got employed in the Liberty Paint, where he's supposed to ply his trade. He was there at the Liberty Point trying to work with some blacks also he met there, but the working environment was quite toxic and chaotic. And this did not augur well because at the end of the day, he was involved in an accident and he was kicked out of the company. Nowhere to go to. He met Mary Rambo. Mary Rambo is portrayed as a figure who tried as much as possible to unite the black together. Okay, and this character of Mary Rambo gives us this element of unity amongst the blacks. Someone who is a strong voice for the people. At the end of the day, a narrator, through certain circumstances, met with Brother Jack. Now, Brother Jack is a strong voice in the brotherhood, the black union, where all blacks come together to voice their aspirations. So our narrator was warmly welcomed by Brother Jack, who introduced him to the brotherhood. Our narrator grew so powerful in the brotherhood. Okay, he was given sensitive position where he was able to distinguish himself as a black man. This is a black union that's geared towards advocating the cause, the plight, and the aspirations of the blacks in a white dominated American society. But at the end of the day, our narrator, his scale cut off his eyes as finally discovered that the black brotherhood is not what it claims to be. It's actually an illusion. Now, our narrator is facing reality because after all said and done, he later discovered that the brotherhood had ulterior motives. And this came to play while the scale was off his eyes was after the death of Todd Clifton. When Todd Clifton died, he expected the brotherhoods to come together unanimously bury Todd Clifton, but they were all folding their hands akimbo, watching while the dead body of Todd Clifton lay on the streets of Harlem. With this, he picked up the dead body and buried him and gave a very powerful speech that day. And to him, he decided that that is the end of this mission. So, my dear students, I want to warmly say thank you. Until our next class, have a blessed day. Thank you and God bless you.